Hey you guys, what's up? It's Rocketos54 here, and welcome to my list for the top 10 worst films of 2022. I'm gonna disable comments on this video because I can already tell that my number 9 and number 8 pick is gonna piss a lot of people off, and honestly, probably my number 10 pick as well, but let's just get right into this. I'm gonna start with just a couple of dishonorable mentions. There's only two. Now the first one is Uncharted. I really wanted to like that movie a lot because I'm a fan of the games, and like it seemed like they were really gonna, for some reason I just felt like they were gonna like really do it right, but then they just like didn't. It had some good scenes for sure, and like the performances were good, but like it was just like bland for so much of it, which really sucks when this is from the same director as Zombieland and he wasn't able to make it more interesting. But yeah, unfortunately that one was kind of a letdown. And then the other dishonorable mention, well, if you want to call it dishonorable, because this one's most definitely a guilty pleasure more than anything else, and that is Good Morning. um this movie is it was kind of it was definitely very amateur. Like, this isn't the first film that Machine Gun Kelly and Mod Sun have directed. The first was Downfalls High, which I really enjoyed, actually. I think that might have been an honorable mention in my best films of last year video, actually, because I really enjoyed Downfalls High a lot. But Downfalls High was also a much smaller film with not a lot of locations, not a lot of like extravagant things going on, and there was also like, like the music scenes like interspersed like throughout the movie. So like, like a big part of it's kind of like a music video of sorts, and then there's like a film. So it definitely would have been easier given that Machine Gun Kelly and Mod Sun are both musicians. And I know for a fact Machine Gun Kelly has directed at least one music video before. Don't know about Mod Sun, but the thing is, with Good Morning, it was just like there was a lot of like jokes in here that were like, they are funny. It's just that they were timed and kind of written a little bit wrong. Um Definitely take MGK's advice and watch this high, because you will have a blast, trust me on that. Because I know I did. And it was a very enjoyable movie. It was like, it's not like a great movie because you can tell it's very like amateurish, and again, I just wish that the jokes were timed better. I just think Machine Gun Kelly and Mod Sun's direction needs a bit of work, and I'm really excited to see what they come up with in the future, though, because I mean, I'm a huge fan of both of them, especially Machine Gun Kelly. So yeah, so that is both of the dishonorable mentions. Now, we're going to start off the top 10 list, and starting off the list is number 10, which is 3,000 Years of Longing. Now, this one, I was pretty interested when I first saw the trailer for this, because it's directed by George Miller, who directed Mad Max Fury Road, which was a great movie. But this one was like, the best way I can describe it was entertaining, but it was empty. Like, it kind of pulls an Antebellum, and like a large portion of the movie is like an origin story, and it takes up like a lot of the movie's runtime, and then it gets into like the real story in the last like 30 to 40 minutes, and it's like, okay, you gotta like hurry up now. Like, you need to have a story, and you gotta do it in this short amount of time. And not to mention, like, I found the origin story was a little bit hard to follow along with too. And I can like, I have a big appreciation for like, original kind of like unconventional zany ideas like this, but unfortunately I just didn't think it worked very well. Now, coming in at number 9 is one that I was very disappointed in, and that was The Northman. Robert Eggers made a masterpiece of horror with The Witch, a very scary, incredibly well-directed horror film, a movie that is just, it's just great. And then The Lighthouse, which was a decent follow-up, I enjoyed that too. I didn't like it nearly as much as The Witch, but I still thought it was a pretty good movie. I should probably rewatch it with subtitles. But like, The Witch was amazing. The Lighthouse was pretty good. I knew going into this that this wasn't going to be a horror movie. I mean, that's pretty obvious, even if you just read the plot description. It's like like a medieval like period piece. But I was just so surprised by how uninterested I was throughout this whole thing. Like, what was really bad was about like halfway through the movie, I was telling my friends I legitimately can't tell you anything from the first third because I had already forgotten it. Like, Anya Taylor-Joy and Alexander Skarsgård really give it their all, and like the sets and whatever, like the commitment to like the aesthetic and the time period is really good. But I was just so uninterested throughout the entire thing, and not to mention, like, given the story, like, talk about a rushed climax for all that buildup. Like, I was hoping I would at least get a good climax out of this thing, and I didn't even get that. Like, I know a lot of people loved this movie, but I was left so disappointed by the whole thing. It was definitely a shame. I really hope that whatever Robert Eggers comes up with next is better than this. Coming in at number 8 is one I was very, very excited for as well, and walked away very disappointed with, and that is Prey. Now, I will say, the only other Predator movie that I've seen is the Shane Black one, so maybe I'll gain a better appreciation for this after I see the other Predator movies, but I don't see why everyone likes this so much. Like, I was especially excited for it too because Dan Trachtenberg, the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I love, and he also directed the playtest episode of Black Mirror, which was great. I was so excited for it. Like, this is the first thing that he's given us in like 6 years, but it just, like, the directing was honestly quite bad, and like, with the gore too. Candyman 2021's its gore at every turn, meaning that this movie is rated R and it doesn't show the gore. You have an R rating, show it. Like, you're not making a PG-13. You can show your gore. Why aren't you showing it? It was so annoying. It's been a trend I've noticed in horror movies recently that I really just cannot stand. And even in Halloween Kills, a movie I enjoyed, it did it in that too. And there's a couple other ones that I can't remember right now, but like, it's a trend I've been noticing in horror movies recently that I just really can't stand. Just please stop doing that. And just, the visual effects in this looked way too artificial, and do not even get me started on the horrid CGI blood. It looked so goddamn bad. I'm talking like is this too far? I don't know. It seemed like it was like Amazing Bulk level bad CGI blood. It was just so... The thing is, the first act and parts of the third of this movie are where it's best. Like, the rest of it isn't unwatchable, but it's just so bland. Like with The Northman, I just didn't find myself all that interested in what was going on. Like, again, I hope I gain deeper appreciation for this after seeing the other Predator movies, but I was really quite disappointed with this. Coming in at number 7 is Woman in the Chair. Now, I feel a little bit weird talking about this one because while I do think that this was a worse movie than Prey, I feel a bit weird giving this one a bit more slack. But I mean, the thing is, like, this was like a low budget horror movie, and I have a big love for low budget horror. And when it comes to movies like this, like, I feel like you can give them a lot more of a pass because, like, there's not as much money involved, and also I feel like a lot of it is like a lot of people like learning, maybe it's like their first film, but also I find that like low budget horror has its own like tropes in it. It's like I feel like with a lot of low budget horror that a lot of people do know what they're making, and they know that it's like that it's kind of supposed to be on like a so bad it's good level. It's not necessarily applicable to this, because I think this is actually like definitely a cut above like the like lower ones in this list. But when it comes to like low budget horror, it's like, because they're like committed to kind of creating like so bad it's good stuff. As I said, it's not really applicable to this, more so to the ones lower in this list, but I just find that it's like, I mean, with something like Prey, you have like a big budget and talented people behind and in front of the camera, and like, like good writers. So it's like I found myself like more disappointed with Prey. I hope this makes sense, but like the woman in the chair, it was, like I mean, I didn't have like super high expectations going into this. I don't really with most low budget horror, but I still find myself enjoying at least parts of it. But yeah, like this was pretty jumbled and just didn't really make any sense and had some really weird presentation. I mean, I will say though that there's some parts with good writing and directing and some actually kind of scary imagery, and the acting was pretty good, but yeah, it was mostly just like your typical like low budget horror film that wasn't that good in general, unfortunately. But yeah. Now coming in at number 6 is another Horror Pack exclusive, and if I'm being honest, honestly, kind of has the same issue as my number 7 pick, and that is The Winter Hunger. You know, again, like as I said with the last one, like moments of really good direction and some actually scary images. But I mean, with this one, the reason why I put it lower is because like this one was like the woman in the chair wasn't confusing. This one definitely was, I thought, and definitely the first half, the directing was kind of bad. Like, in the second half was more so where the moments of really good direction came in. The moments of like good direction in the woman in the chair were more consistent and weren't as jarring, like with the direction in the first half of this being pretty bad. But also this one has a bit more of a hit against it because, one, as I said, it is pretty confusing, but also like I found it was too long as well. Like it's not like overbearingly long. It's an hour and 50 minutes, but I still just felt like for this type of movie, the type of script they had, I just found it was too long for this kind of a script that they had. Coming in at number 5 is Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Now, I will admit, like, the first half hour or so of this movie isn't bad, and honestly even felt like a real Jeepers Creepers film at some points, because the first Jeepers Creepers is one of my absolute favorite horror films of all time. I think it is incredibly well directed, so engaging, so entertaining. Really, it's not even the horror is the reason why I love it so much. It's mostly just because of the craft. The direction in the first Jeepers Creepers is great, and the second one is a really good sequel that I really enjoyed. Not as good as the first, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. Can't say the same for the third one, though. I'll be honest, I actually do think that this is better than the third one, and I honestly don't think this is as bad as people were saying, but I didn't care this time around. Like, as I said, the first half hour or so wasn't too bad, but the rest was just not it. Like, there was some cool gore and decent scenes, mostly in, like, the third act. But, okay, if you don't want to hire Victor Salva again, fine. But don't fuck up the story he, like, set up at the end of the third one. Because at the end of the third one, there's something he sets up that I'm like, okay, like, I'm really excited about this. Like, I want this to happen. If a Jeepers Creepers 4 ends up happening, like, please let this happen. But they don't. They just completely abandon that story and go with just a random thing that's just like, okay, here you go. We're just going to use the creeper and we're just going to, like, do this random story. We'll have a little bit of cool gore, but that's it. And that just, like, it just kind of, like, pisses me off when they didn't, like, carry on from, like, the story they set up at the end of the third. Like, the thing is, I would have much rather have had, like, a film that carried on the story from the third one and have it be directed properly and not whatever this was. And also, like, what the hell was up with the girlfriend character in this? Like, she was constantly bashing her boyfriend over the things he likes doing. Like, what in the hell? Coming in at number 4 is Freak. I don't remember this movie. Honestly, the only thing I really remember about my thoughts about it was, as I said, like, I do have a big love for, like, no-budget horror. I understand it's going to be on a different quality level of something, like, compared to something that's, like, big budget. At least make it enjoyable and, like, have some, like, good writing and, like, some good scenes. This just didn't have it. It just didn't have, like, like, the good scenes it should have. It just didn't take enough chances. As I said, I don't even really remember too much about this movie, but I thought it sounded kind of cool, but it unfortunately just didn't live up to expectations, I guess. Coming in at number 3 is It Hatched. This was actually a recent one that I opened from Horror Pack. There are so many good ideas in here, and all of them are executed terribly. Like, people had been saying that this was, like, kind of like The Room of horror movies. Maybe I might even feel that way on a second viewing, because there are some moments in here that are kind of like The Room level quality. But my god, just such bad editing and direction. The performances are fucking horrible. Like, seriously, just, like, no emotion put into some, and then just, like, complete just bad acting in others. This movie was so damn hard to get through because it was just so badly made, badly written, just so bad. Like, the only thing that kept me from giving this a half star out of 5 was because the lighting, location, use of colors, and cinematography was all really nice. This movie is shot very well. But that's, like, the only good thing in it. There's, again, so many good ideas, and they do nothing with them, or they execute them so badly. I was really looking forward to this when I unboxed it, and it was just fucking terrible. Coming in at number 2 is The Next 365 Days. Now, if you have seen my worst films of 2020 video, the first 365 days was my number 1 worst film of 2020. It is horrible, but holy shit is it funny. It is so bad, but you will love watching it. Please go see it. It is so unbelievably stupid and amazing. Cannot say the same for this sequel. Like, this is the 3rd film in the trilogy, and they released 2 and 3 both this year. And, not necessarily the best thing to do because, it's like people bag on the Matrix sequels all the time for doing something like that. I haven't even seen the Matrix sequels, so I don't know how they are, but, like, with this, like, the reason why I enjoy watching the first 365 days so much is because of how, like, again, like, The Room level quality it is. It's so terrible and stupid, but it's so funny. You will love watching it. This one had some moments like that in there, and I did enjoy myself, mostly through, like, the first third to first half, but it didn't have enough of those moments, unfortunately, and just... Actually, I'm just going to use this to segue into my number 1 pick, which is 365 Days This Day. I should have just combined these two from the start, but yeah, it's just like the next 365 Days is number 2, 365 Days This Day is number 1, because the next had, as I said, had, like, a fair amount of, like, those kind of, like, stupid funny moments that I did enjoy. And then it just kind of, like, abandons them. The second one had, like, next to none of that. It was just terrible. It was just terrible and very, like, it was so much of a chore to get through it. It had, like, one funny, like, stupid funny scene at the beginning. That is it. And really, if you're gonna watch 365 Days, watch the first one and just cap it there, because the ending to the first one is so fucking funny, and then they just ruined the funny ending to the first one by making sequels. They're just like, oh, you remember that thing that happened in the first one? Yeah, that didn't actually happen because the first one did really well on Netflix and we want money, so here's some sequels that are way worse. Yeah, second one was not even worth my time at all. Like, I mean, the third one is kind of like a love-hate relationship with, because it does have some very funny scenes in it, but Yeah, no, they just should not have made these sequels, especially the second one. Like honestly, I was as weird as it sounds, the second one was probably one of the films I was looking forward to the most because of how much I loved watching the first one, and it really just kind of like in a way defeated the purpose of the first one. But in my mind, these sequels don't exist and the first one is the only one that really matters. But yeah, that is the end of my video for the top 10 worst films of 2022. Let me know what your picks for the worst films of the year are in the comments below. Hopefully I will see you guys soon with my best films of 2022 as well as the best albums of 2022. Hopefully I can get those out in the next couple days. But anyway guys, that's going to be it for this video. Subscribe for more content. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and remember you guys, whenever hatching an egg, say no to drugs.